All right, welcome to MVP Podcast episode 11. We got Max here. He is a multi-hat.
He's amazing.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Runs his own web design marketing firm.
Yep.
Bought into real estate culture.
Really
like
young.
19,
young.
I think he said.
I think so.
Super jealous of that start.
Yeah.
I was like mid to late 20s.
I was older than that.
So, got going early, saw the benefits of it. And he is the person that, like, I would love to model anybody who's thinking about getting into real estate who has a full-time job or has a career or has a family. He is so hands-off with his investing. He's done one deal, bought it for himself to live in. So he talks about that a little bit and how he got that all going. Cashed out higher than he thought it was going to, so he's got that capital to roll into the next deal that he talked about. But he's in a different asset class than what we invest in. So he's more in the Airbnb short-term leases. And
he gets to live in an Airbnb, like, full-time.
Yeah. Not the same one.
No, different ones.
Travels everywhere.
So jealous.
Living the life. But yeah, fascinating guy to talk to. He's actually looking into, and he talks about a little bit, another deal down in Austin where he wants to go into just full Airbnb space. So it was a very interesting person to talk to, and I feel like he can motivate those people that are right on the fringe of like, oh, my life is too hectic. I don't know if I can do it. He's proof that it can be done.
Absolutely.
Hands off. You don't need to wear boots. You don't need to get dirty. You can outsource and get contractors to get all these, I'm going to call them dreams done. If you want to. So
yeah, for sure.
We're going to bring Max on. He'll tell us more about himself. Well, welcome to the show, Max. It's great to have you on here. Thanks for taking time out on your Friday to come join us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love having conversations like this.
Yeah, they're so much fun. And like I was saying before, we love to see people that have career aspirations that may not be full-time real estate get into real estate and see how it all ties together. So I'm super excited for you to expand on that a little bit, share that with our listeners, kind of boost their confidence into getting into the wonderful world of real estate.
Yeah, more than happy to talk about kind of the journey that I've been on. It's definitely been untraditional, I would say.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's exciting. So give us the background.
Sure. So my whole journey began when I was in college. I was a freshman. And my main business, the thing that I do every day, is I created a digital agency. We make websites for like real estate agents, for software companies, doctors, professional services, stuff like that. That's my main business, and I started that company when I was a freshman in college, and I've been doing it for about 3 years, and saved up some cash to do a down payment on a house because I was paying rent to this college rental company to split a 5-bedroom with 4 of my buddies. It was awesome, but I wanted to, I wanted to start like increasing my net worth through my house payments, which is why I decided I wanted to buy. But it was such a unique process. As soon as I bought the house that I wanted to live in, I realized that it was seriously, it was below. I didn't know the word for it at the time, but the ARV, like the after value, was so much higher than what I really thought it was going to be. So I took out a hard money loan, did about $80,000 in renovations on the house, added on a few hundred square feet.
Wow!
Really, it was a huge project, and I learned so many lessons that I'm happy to go into. But then I refinanced it into my mortgage, and then it just became like the best investment I've ever made.
Yeah, that is awesome. That nice little ARV that pops up at the end is just a nice little cherry on top with it.
Yeah, definitely. And then suddenly, I had equity in the house.
Yeah.
More than I would have if I just had a down payment. So that was pretty cool.
Which is awesome. And we're going to dive into that and what you want to do with that. I want to take a step back. What market are you in?
Tucson.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's currently my only property.
Okay.
But that I don't live in Tucson full time. Like I live in an Airbnb, just kind of moving around. But
Lucky.
I would. It's pretty fun. But I would buy more in Tucson. I think probably next I'll buy in Austin.
Oop, the audio cut out. Where's the next thing you're gonna buy?
Probably Austin. I think
Okay.
it's the city I'm really interested
Man,
in.
Austin is blowing up like crazy right now.
Yeah.
I just spent 2 months there. It is such an amazing city.
Yeah, I went
That's-
down there. A previous employer, that's where our conference was, and we went down for I think 5 days, and so much fun. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Milwaukee.
It's funny. You're talking about Austin, and I'm sitting here staring at a steer head that I have on my wall that we got in Austin.
Really?
Yeah.
It's such a cool culture. Like the city is just so alive. I want to just make sure that I have a piece of it as mine. So that's why that's my next market.
That's awesome.
So you went to school in Tucson, or why? How did you fall on Tucson market?
Yeah, I just went to school there. So it was where I was, and like I said, I just wanted to make sure that I owned the place I was paying rent in, essentially, at the time, which wouldn't be paying rent, it'd be paying a mortgage. But that was how my thought process went when I was 19 or 20.
That's
oh my
awesome.
gosh,
And
super young.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Jealous you got in so early.
I want to do more, but it's I have a case of shiny object syndrome that I know I need to curb. So I want to do one thing at a time.
Right. No, it's a good thing to focus in on the one thing, and then whenever you get the next free time available, you jump back into it. But the main thing is like you started it.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Is great.
One thing I'm really interested in is like wholesaling. I think that's some of my friends are doing that, and I want to get in on that trend. I don't know if you're interested in that kind of subject, but I think it's really interesting.
We just talked to somebody last week about this.
Yeah, they're starting a
really?
wholesaling business, out-of-state wholesaling. And she's going to be back on the show talking about that with her brother. Her brother's been doing it for, I think, a couple of years, she said.
Yeah.
I've had 2 opportunities to wholesale, and I've declined both because I kept them as rentals, and then the other one I did a complete rehab on. But it's pretty funny when you go to an auction, you pick up a property, and then the next week you've got mailers coming in saying, hey, I'll buy it for this price as is. And I was like,
Crazy.
oh, the quick money is
That's
like that
nuts.
shiny object that I'm like, I should just take it and then roll it in the next one. But selfish.
I bet you there's some kind of like, and there's all like in real estate investment, there's all those like little rules of thumb. I bet you there's one about how much you have to make more than the wholesale on the flip for it to be worth it. I bet someone has done the math there. I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And that's like the cool thing about real estate. You can pick an avenue to go into. No one's stepping on each other's toes. You just got to find your niche. You're going to make money on it if you're doing it correctly and just follow your numbers. It's like the main thing. Just follow the numbers.
You keep talking about all of this investment stuff every week on our podcasts, and you're torturing me because I want to do something. I just haven't figured out what yet.
A few more of these and we're going to push you over the edge.
I know, for sure.
We are. So how did you come upon the house in Tucson? And is it single family? Is it duplex? Talk more about that one.
It's a single family, but I'm renting each room out as its own unit because you can get more for that, and college students prefer it, and it's near the university. It's kind of a pain to like find tenants all the time because turnovers, especially because I'm doing this right now during coronavirus.
Yeah.
Turnover is kind of crazy. I just want to be flexible with everybody.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had any vacancies for more than a month, so that's been pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And I lived there for a year or 2, so that was fun. I found the house from a realtor. He's a family friend, so he recommended it to me. He's also the one who kind of encouraged me to look at, adding on some value to the home before moving in. And I also had, as a web designer, I work with all kinds of different industries, but one of my clients is a big real estate investor influencer guy, and he was telling me that that's probably worth looking into as well. So I took advice from 2 people that I trusted on the matter, and just realized that it was a no-brainer once I did the math.
Yeah. Now, are these leases? It's room by room. Are these long-term leases or are these short-term?
Each of them is in a different situation. I have long-term leases on 2 of them, and when I say long-term, I'm speaking in college terms, so that's a year.
Yep.
And then the other ones are month-to-month.
Okay.
I try to go for the year-long ones, but there are certain situations like, here's a good example. In February of this year, I had a transfer student from Canada living in one of the rooms, but he had to go back. There was no option for him to stay.
Yeah.
They were like, if you want to be allowed back into Canada, you have to come like today.
Oh boy.
Jeez.
That was kind of crazy. So then suddenly I had a vacancy, and it's the middle of the semester. So who's looking to move to Tucson in the middle of the semester? I just had to take whatever I could get, right? So I agreed to do month-to-month leases, and that's been a hassle. So next time it lines up kind of at the turn of the semester, then I'll get a long-term lease, I think.
Okay.
For sure. And hopefully we won't have Corona again next year.
That would be great.
I know,
hope
right?
not. I hope not.
That would be great.
Now, and I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but there was one property I was looking at. It was 1 bedroom. It was a 4-plex. And in our town that I live in, Oconomowoc, we can't do like an Airbnb or short-term leases. But there was one. Yeah, I know. I've talked to them.
Anywhere in Oconomowoc? Wait.
No, they just don't like it.
But there are some.
There are, but are you allowed to?
Oh.
2 different questions.
Got it.
Don't want to systematically break the law.
Right.
And I'm just my tolerance for getting in trouble in a place where I want to invest a lot of my stuff. I just don't want to get yelled at for that, so I stay away. But in other markets, there's and I'm forgetting the websites, but there's like traveling nurses and traveling like contractors.
Yes.
They have a whole database on there that you can sign up and post your properties, and they're all held by an agency. So the agency will reach out to the property owner and set up leases for their nurses or doctors or lawyers or something like that.
They used to be a huge market for me when I was a dog walker way back in the day. It was the traveling nurses.
Mm-hmm.
We loved them.
So I don't know if you've looked at that, but I know that's one thing that I've wanted to do so bad, because especially when you live on the outskirts of a town, they're always having like traveling PAs and traveling nurses in, and they need somewhere to stay short term because their contracts are only a month or 2.
Right.
But they keep lining them up. So throwing it out there for anybody who's investing in short term, possibly could help.
That's
you
super
out.
interesting.
Yeah, and I'll look up the name. I'll give it to Natasha. She'll send it over to you. But I know I listened to it on a podcast, and then it kind of clicked because one of my friends is a traveling PA. So I brought it up to her to see if she was going to be able to use it. But just an idea. Wanted to throw it out. See if it helped.
Doesn't hurt.
Really interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So you bought the property. Do you want to go into the numbers at all? Do you feel comfortable sharing those about purchase, ARV?
Yeah, from what I remember, it's been a few years. So I bought it, I think, at 180, something like that.
Okay.
And it was, at the time, I think it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was like 1,100 square feet. I could be botching any of these numbers, so keep that in mind. Then I did $80,000 of work into it with a 12% hard money loan. So I think I probably paid $4 or $5 grand in interest, because it ended up taking a little longer than I wanted to, because it was also my first construction project.
It happens.
That's a whole set of lessons there.
Yeah.
But glad I did it. Then at the end of the project, once I'd refinanced everything in, the value was, I think, 310 is what they're telling me.
Wow.
Is what,
Awesome.
was what it was appraised at. So
That's
that was
amazing.
the whole in between part, right? When I had the hard money loan, like that whole process was super stressful for me, and I was just like, is this going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth it, or is it going to come back to bite me? But at the end, as soon as I saw those numbers, I realized, like, actually, this was awesome.
Yeah.
I need to do this again.
Yep.
For sure.
So what is this after rents? I know that they're all different. It's kind of unique right now. How much a month from your all-in cost to now, how much is that rent rolling for you?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question.
With your property, with all of your tenants, after bills are paid and all that, is it cash flowing pretty well for you? Is that...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So every month, I think the payment that I make is like $1,300, and I bring in about $2,100. So it cash flows a little under $1,000 for me every month.
That's awesome.
And it's also
allows you to
paying down the
travel.
mortgage, of course.
Allows you to travel and Airbnb everywhere.
That's amazing. I'm so
Yes.
jealous.
It's pretty fun. I'm super lucky. And then the other cool part about it was when I was in college still, I had that same setup, except one of the rooms was mine, and I had built that room, so it was like an awesome room.
Yeah.
And I just was basically living for free. So I didn't have any expenses, and I could save up to do my next big project, which is really fun.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
I can't wait
so
to get
jealous.
to the next project.
Oh, the next project.
I can't wait to get to it too.
Right? So did you do all the work yourself, or did you hire contractors?
I hired a contractor. I'm the least handy person in this whole world.
Okay.
I couldn't even give my car an oil change. Like I'm not the guy that should be installing vanities and building square footage onto my house.
We just gotta look at more YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be it.
University. That's where it's at.
That could be it.
That's how my husband learned. He had never even painted a room before, and then he's like, "I'll just watch a YouTube video and figure it out." Oh God.
How'd that go?
He painted my son's bedroom for me. He painted, I think, like half of our house. So he did well.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Go YouTube.
Yes.
Right. No, it's a lot less stressful for you, I'm sure, getting a contractor come in rather than going there day to day, fixing that while trying to do your day job.
Yeah, and seriously, that was a lot for me because I was a full-time student and I had my agency running too, so there really wasn't time for me to do it myself. It never would have gotten done.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had a hard move-in date for my tenants.
Oh no.
So that was some added pressure as well. There was so much drama with that, but it ended up working out.
Yeah, trying to align the rehab with a tenant move-in. I had one where we were about 3 weeks off of our expected end date for repairs. Luckily, the tenant had an extra month on their lease, so I was trying to be as flexible with them as possible. But I mean, they were walking through the unit where it was just drywall, and I was like, "Hey, this is what it is. You can see the size and the shapes in the rooms, but we're not gonna be done for another month at that time." But it turned out to be a month and 3 weeks.
Oh God.
So what did you do? How do you handle that?
I mean, it's a lot of questions on the front end. I wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with the state it was in. Obviously, it was a whole rehab, so they saw the befores and what it was going to be. And then I wanted to make sure I knew when their lease ended at their last place. And then I basically just talked to them like, hey, if it's not done, do you have the ability to do a 1 year or a 1 month temp at your current residence? Ask your property manager if you can do that. I offered them half month's first rent because of the delay, which kind of appeased the tension a little bit. But it's really just being open and honest at the start of where you're at and what your expected timeline is, but things happen. Like ours was delayed because we put the floor in the bathroom, we put the vanity in, and when my guy was putting the vanity in, it was old piping, and he cracked the copper pipe. We had to rip the floor back up, get a plumber in, fix the piping, and put the floor back in.
Oh, yikes.
So, and then we had to put all the base mold back in. So that was our delay, and it was something that we didn't even expect to happen. It just popped up about a week before, or 4 days before they were supposed to move in. Oh no! And it's a one bathroom, so it's not even like it's not like move in and use the other bathroom. It's a one bathroom, so they just didn't have water in there. So we had to fix that. But yeah, it was an eerie situation where I turned the water on to check the kitchen sink, and I walked through the hallway, and I'm like, man, I hear running water. And the other guy's like, yeah, I hear it too. And then we shut it off, it stops, and we're like, okay, this is not going to be good.
That's not good.
That's not good. And then we pulled up, because it's on a slab, so we actually had to cut a hole in so that we could get heat down there, so the pipes don't freeze in the winter. Because up here, we have something called winter.
I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I haven't seen that before, actually.
You're picking good Airbnbs then if you're staying away from the cold.
For sure.
It's intentional.
Right. So I was able to peek my head down underneath the slab, and I got to see just water spraying everywhere.
Oh, no.
It was great. But everything
That's
worked out.
brutal.
They were awesome tenants. They appreciated the half month free. And then I gave them a couple weeks just to move their stuff in the rooms that were available. So it was a really easy transition for them where they could just pull their storage stuff out early and not move all in one day. So just like you are, you're super flexible with your tenants. I always talk to them about, yes, this is a business, but you're dealing with people.
Right.
And you're dealing with, like, you got to be respectful of people, and in what they need to do. So
And moving is such an emotional thing too. I mean, it is.
it is. I move in 2 days, so
Yay!
I'm in that emotional state.
You got the emotions.
Oh yeah, all of them.
Marcus just renovated a house that he actually gets to move into with his son in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah. Bought at an auction. It was going to be another rental property, but when I got there, I was like, well, if I cut down all this brush and we like clean up the yard, we have river access, so like.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, and then I
Right on.
gotta throw a second story on. So it just got out of hand.
And
But
get rid
we're
of
That sounds like that sounds like a nightmare.
and get rid of bats.
Adding on a second story sounds so hard. Is it like a whole other level of project?
Yeah, it was because we actually added on about, I don't know, 400 square feet of an addition, and then through 3 more rooms on the second floor. We had a bunch of code violations, and at an auction you can't walk through and see what the status of the inside is. But I walked in. There's no bathroom on the main floor. The staircase doesn't meet code, so those are shot. So we're either expanding a wall or I'm ripping it out. And at that point, I was like, well, if I'm already taking down the staircase, I can move it because it was right in the middle of the floor plan. And then I was like, well, I need to get a designer because I can't do this.
Do you have to have a bathroom on the main level?
You don't. It was just I didn't want people coming upstairs when they came
Got
over,
it.
going into like one little weird hallway to get to it. The floor plan of this house was just terrible.
Jacked up.
It was, so I had to change it. But it's all working out. It's good. I can't wait for it to be over.
That sounds like it.
Right. So you didn't do the rehab yourself, but what key takeaways that you got can you share with our audience of, hey, if you're going to get into this, watch for maybe 1 or 2 things that you learned through this whole process that might make it easier for them?
Yeah. So if you're going to do the route I went, where you get a general contractor to manage the project for you, you still have to manage the general contractor. I think I was naive in the sense that I thought if I hire the right guy and I pay him and I structure it based on a completion date, like I do with all my projects in my company, that he would manage himself and get the project done the way that I would. That's just not the case. It couldn't be farther from the truth.
Yeah.
So what I did was I hired him, and then I hired him at the end of my school year in Tucson, and then our lease ended, of course. So I went, I left town for the summer essentially, and I just came back every couple months to just check on it and make sure it was going. I guess it was probably every 4 or 5 weeks. I would check in and make sure it was going well. And I was never impressed with the progress, but I always allowed myself to be convinced that it was actually where it was supposed to be, even though my gut was telling me this isn't going to be finished. Over the years, I've learned to trust that gut with any kind of project. Managing projects is a big part of my main business too.
Yeah.
Where if it doesn't feel like it's at the level it should be, it isn't.
Got it. Yeah.
So, just to illustrate this point as perfectly as I think it can be illustrated, a week before we were supposed to be moving in, remember, I have tenants moving in on this date. I show up, and the house hasn't passed its final inspections. In fact, there's no power to the house, and the city won't turn on power because it hasn't met XYZ criteria. I don't remember what it is.
Oh, no.
And as I'm walking into the house, they're standing outside the electrical box, and the general contractor, who I've trusted to get the job done by this date, says, okay, cool, you can turn the power on in a month.
Oh,
and if I had
no.
not walked in at that exact moment and said, whoa, stop, and actually made a new solution happen, I wouldn't have had a place to move in the next week.
Wow.
So that was that's a dramatic example of how much you actually have to be involved in these projects. You can't just trust it to someone else.
Right.
Yikes.
Yeah. They know the tactical, but again, they're tactical. They don't know the background of what you have going on with tenants and everything. I mean, you personally are moving in too about what you have going on that you need to be on that day. And we actually did an episode on the podcast of how to vet a contractor and how to stay on top of them to make sure that stuff is getting done. Because they're running a business too, and things fall through the cracks, and they've got other jobs they need to finish, and they try to borrow time here, and it gets messy.
Babysitting your contractors.
That is definitely one of the key things in real estate and in business that if you want to succeed, you just got to get good at.
Yeah.
It's just managing people who are doing stuff for you.
For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's as simple as just a text a day or a text every other day about, hey, what's going on, or when are you going to be back, or what's the next step. Not pushy, but just letting them know that you're there. Kind of like the squeaky wheel. Just be the squeaky wheel that's always there.
Oh.
Yep.
And most of the time they're on it.
That's true. That's true.
I actually
Go
just
ahead.
called my plumber today, and I was like, because we've got electric, we've got heat, and the last thing is the plumber, because obviously he can't come in unless the floors are in. So I called him. I was like, hey, just on your timeline, just so you know, our floors are going to be in this week. What's your timeline on getting back in? And he's like, oh, that's actually really nice you called. I'm in the neighborhood. I'll stop by.
Nice.
So he popped over. We went over all the fixtures. I let him know what I bought, what he's got, to make sure that we went down this whole checklist, and he had the quote out that he had given me previous, and we had what he calls, or he puts on the line, as a fixture allowance. So I went through the stuff that I had already purchased. He checked that off his list. He's got what he needs to buy, and he's like, I'm going to be back on Thursday to start putting in toilets and vanities and all that stuff. So, and it all just came from a call at 8:30 a.m.
There you go.
So it's
yeah, that's awesome. Definitely making the noise gets the attention for sure.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so we went through the background on that one. I want to know about your next project. What's on your horizon with all the equity that you've built up in this house?
I think the next thing I want to do is an Airbnb somewhere. And I've been looking for advice from people who know more than me on this. So maybe you can tell me if I'm being an idiot. But I want to do an Airbnb for a couple of reasons. One, the flexibility of having it as a vacation property, for myself, is really attractive. The second reason is there are so many great property management companies for Airbnbs that kind of make it a passive income thing.
Absolutely.
Where I wouldn't have to do it myself. I know that exists for residential, long-term leases as well. But from what I've heard from my friends who do that, those can be kind of unreliable and pricey. Whereas I've heard from others in the Airbnb space that those services are pretty good.
Yeah.
At least in the cities I'm interested in.
Yeah.
What cities are you looking at?
Austin's the main one right now, and then I'm interested in Phoenix and probably one of those two.
Okay, that's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I was gonna say Vegas, but probably not Vegas anymore.
That would be kind of fun though.
Oh God.
Yeah, that would be pretty fun.
I've driven through it. It looked very cool. It's a bit too noisy and bright for my liking, but
bright.
It looked very cool. It's so.
What do you mean it's a bit too noisy and bright?
I mean, we come from
You come from.
I come from rural Wisconsin, so I drove through the Strip on my way to Long Beach in college, and it looked like such a fun area. But I'm an introvert, so that just sucks my energy out. Where an extrovert, I'm sure, just recharges in that environment where it's loud and there's lights and just noises everywhere. I'm that was cool that I drove past it, and I'm good.
No, I get you there for sure. I thought you were talking about the Airbnb market.
Oh,
no. Bright.
No, I want to get Airbnb.
Vegas is definitely noisy and bright. It's where I grew up. It's for sure noisy and bright.
No, I want to go. I want to go Airbnb once I'm done with my long-term portfolio here. I want to go Airbnb in either San Diego. Austin's been on my market or on my radar as a market.
I know I'm dying for an Airbnb. My husband and I want to get one out in Willamette Valley in Oregon because we love it out there. So we figured, why not buy something that we could utilize too?
Yeah.
Totally.
And
it's such an appeal.
The CRM that I use for all my long-term leases here actually has a function that you can turn on for certain properties where you can upload your contractor list, cleaners and plumbers and electricians in each market. So if I don't want to deal with it, it's $10 extra a month. I just flip those on, and then I set a price limit. So if the repair is going to cost over $100, they have to check with me, but I could set that to $500. Otherwise, it just automatically the service request comes in from the tenant. The company that I use, which is Hemline, would contact the contractor that's on my list. The contractor comes out, invoices me, I pay him, I don't touch it. So
That's cool.
Well, that's cool.
yeah, that's
What's
the
it called
reason.
again?
Hemline, HEMLANE. So that's the
Alright.
reason why I picked that, because it had that feature. Like, I know I manage rental properties, but like, I want to go on a vacation with my family. I don't want to be tied to my phone when I'm there. So I can flip that function on for my long-term leases too. I'll set my limits. I'll put in my contractors. Everything's done automated because, like, I'm doing house rehabs. I don't have time to do phone calls and contractors at some point. So this week I'll turn it on. The next week I'll turn it off because I'm available. So I'm just managing the CRM rather than managing all the repairs and tickets that come in. So it's a nice little feature.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and my person in the office is Brad. So if I ever have a question about the CRM, I call Brad, direct line, and then he figures it out. So
That's awesome.
a plug to
That's
Brad
awesome.
from Hemline.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if you're getting into the Airbnb space, that is definitely an option. But I've heard so many good things, and I don't know if you've listened to Bigger Pockets at all. I pumped
little
them
bit.
through this podcast. But if you go on and you create an account, there's real estate investors in there's long-term, there's wholesalers, there's flippers, there's Airbnbers, and you can actually go into direct forums in the investment type that you want to get into. And then they're so nice on that. It's like the free space. It's like the Facebook of real estate investors. You can message somebody, they'll message you back about, hey, I want to get into Airbnb, would you take a phone call? I've never had anybody decline.
You still need to give me that information.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting greedy with it.
Yes.
But,
That's really cool. I'm definitely going to do that.
yeah, if you want to find out, like, I don't profess to know anything about Airbnb. I haven't been in that space, but go to Bigger Pockets, create a login, and you can go in there, search for them, and just put Airbnb, and you'll probably get, in Tucson, you'll probably get like 100 people that would be willing or have one that could share their experiences with you.
Bet you're right. I was thinking, because I am living in Airbnbs right now, I was thinking of just contacting the hosts that I
Here you
live with
go.
and seeing if they would chat with me about it, but
Absolutely.
if they're feeling amicable.
That's a really cool thing about real estate. Everybody loves to share their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not competitive like software businesses or something
Right.
like that. I mean, it's competitive like I want to get the deal more than you want to get the deal, but it's not competitive like people are stingy with knowledge.
Right. Because every avenue that you invest in is different, and I'm not going to step on anybody's toe that's on Airbnb because I don't touch that space. So
You know, it's funny. I'm going out to Oregon twice in the beginning of next year, so maybe we'll be staying at Airbnb. So maybe I'll just be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want to come and talk with us?"
yeah,
Uh huh.
yeah. And the other reverse engineering thing that I've done personally, because I'm still renting until this house is done. So 4 more days. But every sheet that I've gotten from the property manager that runs that building, or the ones I've rented from previous, I've got a stack of papers because they have to be up to code with Wisconsin. So if they're sending out information, like I take that sheet and I'm like, okay, that's what this form looks like, or this is what needs to be in this form. So all those Airbnbs that you've stayed at, if you can, search back in your emails and find out like instructions and how they process things, it might be an easy thing to look at in terms of creating your back office. Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think definitely don't want to reinvent the wheel and stuff like that. There's no real reason to.
Right.
No, for sure not.
Right. You get to reinvent the space. That's the fun part.
Interior decorating's fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I like to make things look pretty too. That's my little hashtag. I make things look pretty.
Love it.
There was one person on Bigger Pockets, is the last thing about Airbnb. She buys Airbnbs around the U.S., and each one is, I guess, themed like an old movie.
Oh, cool.
So, like, she had a Back to the Future one. She had
gosh.
an old school Batman one. It was actually kind of cool, and they posted the pictures on there. I'm sure if we looked, we could find them.
For sure.
But, like, straight themed rooms. And she found that people, like, wanted to go to those because it was, like, a fun vacation. It's not just, like...
It's like a fun house.
Yeah, an ordinary room. So, I don't know.
I think that's smart. There's something to that because I spend a lot of time browsing and looking for Airbnbs, and if they do something that makes me remember them,
Yep.
I'm way more likely to buy from them. And like some of them some of the smarter property management companies that I'm probably going to end up using for this reason, what they do is they add something random and quirky to the house that is just literally added so you'd remember it. Like the first place I stayed at in Austin had like a black hole painted on the wall.
That's
And it
crazy.
just had like some, I don't remember it said like hole to another universe or something that's like super random. Like, why is that there? And then I remember it over and over again, and then I ended up renting that place.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's clever stuff.
The last place my husband and I stayed at in Oregon, they had he's a big golfer, he loves wine, and it was so cool. They had a 9-hole mini golf course on their property. It was awesome. And then they had like horseshoes as well, and then they also had like a zip line. I mean, we didn't use the zip line. We didn't ask him if we could, but it was like I showed it to my son, and he was like, "That's so cool, Mom. Can we stay there?" And I was like, "Sure."
I'd want to stay there if there was a zip line. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it was. I mean, it was very short, but the mini golf was so much fun. The horseshoes were so much fun, and it was like something that you remembered it by.
Totally. That sounds totally worth it.
Yeah. Do you see yourself getting into the multifamily and doing Airbnbs with those, or do you like how the feel of a single family rented out room goes?
I'm very interested in commercial, either multifamily or office space.
Okay.
But I know it's probably, maybe this is kind of a flawed thinking, but in my head, I feel like I want to get more real estate experience before I tackle a project like that. I've been speaking with, again, one of the blessings of being a web designer is I work with every industry. I get to speak to a lot of commercial real estate, either agents or owners or brokerages or whoever, and speak with them about, what I need to know and what my experience should be. And they said you kind of have to like commit to a location kind of harder than I currently do, and establish relationships with
Right.
banks and real estate agents and all this stuff. And I haven't really. So I think once I've picked a place I want to be for more than 2-3 months, then I'll probably start thinking about that. But I'm happy right now to continue going residential. I want to play with bigger dollar amounts once I've. At some point in my career.
Yeah. I know that you can get up to 4 units and you're still in that technical residential. The biggest thing that I've found when you go into that 5 unit and above in that commercial space is just you got to be more in tune with the code. A lot more strict on code. But other than that, I mean, mechanicals are all going to be the same. So I'm itching to get into like an apartment building.
That'd be good.
The cash flow.
When you say that, do you mean more than 5?
Yeah, 5 and up.
5 and up.
Yeah. So once this house is done, I refinance, I pull the cash out. My next thing is the nearest 8-plex that I can buy. That works obviously with numbers is where I want to go. Because one, it's more of a secure, in the way that I invest, it's more of a secure asset where if I lose one tenant on my single family rental, that is 100% of my cash flow. If I lose one tenant on an 8-plex, that's 1/8 of my income. So it's a little bit more secure in that way. I can get tenants in on the ones that are done. I can rehab the ones that are vacant, and then obviously see if those tenants are willing to move into an improved one. Well, I can renovate the one that they were in, or try to get one, and when that lease terminates, we go in and rehab it. I just feel like there's a lot more flexibility in there. And the whole code and all that stuff in the commercial space doesn't fear me as much as losing my one tenant in my single family, which is why I asked the question, because everybody's tolerance is different. And I'm in the position with a family where I have to stay put. So I've got to be in that market where if I was in your shoes, I think I'd feel the same way.
I'd be all over the place if I didn't have a kid.
I'd be on your coattails.
Yeah.
I definitely it strikes a chord with me when you say that the cash flow is dependent on one tenant. That would freak me out too, I think.
Yeah.
That is probably the main benefit to how I have things structured right now, where each room in the house is rented out as its own unit. And I think you can do that in college towns, but I don't know if you can do that anywhere else.
Right.
But right now, yeah, there's we break even two essentially on that house. One is just the positive that's really does take a lot of pressure off. I could see that being stressful if you only had one.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I want to get into a bigger building, just because it just eases the turnover.
I also feel like having a vacancy in that, and let's say you have an 8 unit, that would be an asset to you for a couple of reasons. Like you could, if you need to finance someone on a flip or something you want to do, you can be like, yeah, if you need to, I have this extra unit that you can live in for a month while you're finding a new place, no charge. Like you have that asset as a tool in your negotiating belt.
Yep. And I just think the equity that gets built up, it just allows for a lot more. If I could buy an 8-plex and the ARV on that is a lot higher, it just means more equity I can pull out. I feel like I can grow a lot quicker that way. But again, that's my investment philosophy. But again,
so, are you more of a buy and hold guy than a flipper? That's what it sounds like.
I kind of do both. So we just picked up our next property that we start on, hopefully on the 10th, if this one's done. That's gonna be a straight flip. Bought it from an agent, and I don't know why, but I've never been a hard negotiator. I don't go in and say, this is my price, take it or leave it. I don't give like hard deadlines. I put in my offer after talking to the agent about, hey, I'm going to go back, I'm going to run through my numbers, I'm going to see what I can make work. If that works for your seller, I'm going to give you guys a week to respond. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Let me know when you want to close. Because I knew that I had the huge rehab in my back pocket of like, I can't close in 30 days anyways. Right. And it worked out. So we bought it at a great price. The designer actually just fit in another bedroom. All of my numbers were geared towards this 3-bedroom house that I was buying, turning into a 4-bedroom, adding a bathroom. Now it's a 5-bedroom. So now I have to go back, recomp out the area for 5-bedroom to see what I can do. But yeah, that one's going to be a straight flip. I don't plan to hold that one. That one I'm just going in just to give a little bump in cash for this multi-unit that I'm going to buy. So
I think that's probably the way to do it. Like if I do want to make real estate a bigger part of my career right now, I think being flexible in what you're willing to do with an offer, with a deal that comes your way, just makes that deal worth so much more to you.
Yeah. And when you can look at the whole deal and not just consume yourself with the price. Like, am I going to get the right price? I don't know if the seller cares about price. In this case, they really didn't. It was an estate. They were just trying to get the property out. And they had 4 people in, and one person, I found it at the closing table, one person wanted to come in, tear it down, rebuild it, make a coffee shop. The reason he declined that offer is because his grandpa built the house and didn't want it torn down. And I'm sitting there at the closing table, and he's like, man, I wish I could come in and just see the work you guys are doing. And I was like, you know the address? Stop in any time. Like,
yeah.
If you want to swing a hammer, come join us. But yeah, there was a sentimental value to it. So the people that came in offered more money than I did, but they were going to completely change the whole property. He just declined.
You're getting me all choked up over here. Gosh.
No, he was awesome. He's going to come in, and I told him kind of what we're going to try to do with it. And he's like, oh, that sounds super cool. And you could even try to do this, because I know when we built it, we put this wall here for this reason. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
And the one thing that he did on the property was the ceilings. And the ceilings are like this old shiplap. And they've got railroad ties going across the top.
That's right. You did tell me about
that.
That's
so
I was
cool.
like, I am not touching those. Those are so
For
cool. And
sure.
he's like, I did that.
That's awesome.
So,
that kind of
That
reminds
must have made him feel good.
oh, yeah.
It kind of reminds me about like when I bought my house, and I'm not flipping it or anything. Like, we're sitting here as long as we can with this house, but they sold me my little house because I was a single mom, and she was a single mom, and she liked my story the best. She was like, I can't not sell it to another single mom. I have to. And I was like, thank you. Because that's when houses were like flying off the handle. Like, they were going so fast.
Yeah. In our town right now with the development that's going on, it's probably as quick as what Austin's going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I've never heard that.
Yeah, Austin's flying in Oconomowoc because we have so much development happening here. We've had 3 giant condos come up, and we're surrounded by lakes where we're at, and everybody is trying to get land to build condos.
Especially houses, anything under like 250.
Oh yeah.
It's just they're on the market for a day at most.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's competitive and it's fun to see because we're not a metropolis. Like,
No.
we're not this mega everything.
Right.
But there's so many people, and we have a lot of, for some reason, connection to Illinois, where everybody from Illinois comes up here from the summer. So you have a lot of people from Illinois that just buy like vacant land as an investment, and they sit on it and they pay taxes every year. In 15 years, they'll sell it and they'll make all their money back plus.
Yeah.
Have you ever built on empty land like that?
Not completely, but I've pretty much torn. 2 deals ago, I bought a house, and it's kind of like your philosophy of the parts are bigger than the whole. I bought the property for, it was 100 flat. I said, what do you want for it? He said, I'll sell it for 100. And I was like, done. Like, that's good. I'm not even negotiate. Because I knew going into it, his house was sitting on 2 lots. So I pretty much bought a house for free. So I bought the 2 lots for 50, which a lot out here in the city, pretty much 55, 60,000.
Yeah.
So I bought 2 lots for 50, and then I'm parceling off the land right now to build a duplex on 1. So I'm in talking to the city about how I can plan. The ordinance does not call for any duplexes, but you can get a special
allowance.
Yeah, like a condition where you can put a duplex on it. So that will be my first vacant land to home. I just got to tear down a garage.
Oh.
There was a house I wanted to buy in Austin, only because of where it was. It's like right in Soka, which is, if you don't know Austin, it's like right on the border of downtown. It's just a really happening area. I wanted to buy it, but the house itself was, man, I spent days inside of it's the house I was staying in as an Airbnb for a few days. I spent like a couple days just like trying to think about how I could make this floor plan work, and it was just not going to happen. So I was kind of weighing the option of, reducing it to rubble and starting over, but then I realized I had no idea. I'd never even talked to anybody who'd done that, so I was wondering if that's even a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. The rehab I'm doing right now, I tore down all but 3 walls.
That sounds like what my mom used to do, or what my mom did in our house. Yeah, she demolished every single wall minus 3 walls, so it was considered a renovation, not a new build. And she made her dream home. It was amazing.
Yeah, which is why I get, hopefully, fingers crossed. I actually have to check for legality, but like I don't need an occupancy permit because it's not a new build. It's just a rehab.
Yeah.
Now I tore down everything. I reset all electrical. I reset all plumbing. But it's technically still a rehab. So I think I get under the radar on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'll double check. Hopefully the city's not listening to this podcast.
I don't think we've gotten that big yet, Marcus.
But yeah, it's a interesting. It can be done. You really just got to talk to your contractor about the floor plan and make sure they know how it's all flowing, because you are going to run into hiccups joining old with new.
Yeah.
Just like the slightest flooring level. Like we've got where our kitchen meets the new addition, it's off by like 1/8 of an inch. And when you're laying vinyl plank, you're going to feel that. So
yep, that happened in my house in Tucson.
Yeah, it gets super, and it seems like you're nitpicking them, but when you explain it, they understand it because they've done it before. But that's the experience. You go through it once, you see the things that mess up. You then you take that to the next one. You're like, okay, I know that problem happened, so let's get ahead of it now. And they appreciate it. They're like, okay, this guy or gal knows what they're talking about, has done it before, and you're going to move up on their list because they're like, I'd rather work with you who's knowledgeable than someone else who's like telling me to do all these things that are just not possible. So, yeah, I think you're ready.
You think so?
Going through it once, I think you're ready.
All right. I feel like at a bare minimum, the education will be worth it, and it's a house I want, right? So,
right.
We'll be your cheerleaders on the sideline, like cheering you on the whole time.
Absolutely.
Well, after I do it, I'll call back in and
oh my gosh,
and
absolutely.
tell you all about how it went.
When you pull the trigger on this one, let us know because we're gonna have you back in. You can give us the play-by-play.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Every so often, you can check back in, give us the play-by-play and how it's going.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, actually.
I'm sitting here looking at Marcus, and I'm seeing like the glint in his eye, and like how excited he's already getting for this, and I'm like, oh god.
I'd love to do it. Yeah,
Awesome.
Maybe I'll reach out to him today.
Perfect.
I think you've inspired me.
We're a motivational podcast right
You're
now.
a good and bad influence.
You are. I'm motivated.
So, with your day job in this new venture you're going to get into, do you see a part where real estate might take over your day job, or is it?
Or do you want to keep your day job because you love it so much?
Yeah, I'm always curious.
I don't have a day job, so to speak. My agency is one that I built. It's not like a full-time commitment from me. I mean, some months it is, but no, I love what I do. It's fantastic. I mean, what I do is essentially building houses online. Like we have to. I see so many parallels between that project that I did in Tucson and the ones that I do online every day. It's so much fun, and I get to meet the networking alone is fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's I don't see that not being a part of my life anymore. It's going to change. It always changes. But real estate, I think, will become a larger part of my portfolio, definitely. And I plan to start many companies over the course of my life and many ventures. And the web design agency will be one of them. My real estate Airbnb stuff will be one of them. Residential properties will be one of them. Hopefully commercial one day.
I give you all the credit in the world for web design. I went back to school initially thinking I was going to be able to do web design. And I took one course and I was like, nope, not for me. I can't do it. So I went back and got my graphic design instead. But I was like, web design, it's a whole other monster. It's crazy.
I have to agree with you. I'm definitely not much of a coder myself, like a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
I have my team does that, but I have the same background as you. Graphic design is what I learned in school and what I got good at.
Yeah. Oh.
And anything tech is why I have Natasha around. Because they're like, yeah, just go on to Instagram, and I'm like, I'm going to stop you there. Talk to Natasha, because I've got nothing.
That's funny.
I kind of feel like that's a better way to be, though. You know, it's so easy to spend your whole, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's so easy to spend your whole day looking at a screen. And if you just never let that be you have so much more flexibility with your schedule, with your data,
absolutely.
You have much more personal interactions.
Yeah.
You're in your head less. I think that's a wise way to structure your life.
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur is the best. I would never trade it for anything.
Yeah. And
definitely.
I loved my day job before I was full-time real estate. I would have done that forever. I was working.
What did you do?
I was working for nonprofits. So I worked within school districts for their athletics. And we were actually, as much as I'm not a techie person, it's a tech company for fundraising. So I would go around talking to principals, superintendents, coaches, trying to get programs on board with this software. And the software is derived, I think Arizona actually used it. It's called Amplo. But it was something that they do for the university level for their giving days. I loved it. It was outside sales. I was talking to people. It was great. I just got to a point where I couldn't do both well, and something had to go. So I had to give that up. I was like, hey, I'm leaving the company, but what can I do? I'll stay on as long as you guys need me to fill the spot, because I don't want to go, but I just don't want to leave you guys high and dry. So it was a really every other job I've left, I'm like, here's my 2 weeks, I'm out. But that one I loved. I felt like I was being pulled in so many different ways, and I wasn't giving enough energy to my son, and I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Which is when I turned my philosophy into the whole quote unquote retirement. I don't think I'll ever retire with real estate. Retirement to me is I just don't have to wake up and go. I'll always want to go. So I'm thinking with your software, with your real estate, you just don't have to wake up to an alarm and do it. Mm-hmm. You're financially free. You get to choose that you want to do it, and if you enjoy it so well, you just keep doing it. And I feel like that's kind of where you're going.
I try to structure my life to be as free as I can. I'm sure you've noticed.
I never would have guessed.
That's a really important thing to me. Is I don't want to have anything that requires me to do things. I want to do things that I'm passionate about, and things that interest me. And it's exactly like you said. I want to get up in the morning because I want to, not because I have to. And that's how I've made my business decisions.
I think all entrepreneurs have a little bit of a gypsy soul. Like, my husband makes fun of me all the time because I've been in one spot now for 10 years, and I'm like losing my mind. I'm like, we got to travel. We got to go somewhere. We got to go see something. He just makes fun of me all the time.
I totally get that. I know I don't have any desire right now to be in one place for a long time, so I can see your desire for that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, live that up, because you're gonna have a kid down the road,
and then your whole life is gonna get turned on an axis.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. I'm just hoping my kid's cool too and wants to.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will be listening to you.
Just from talking to you for the last hour, I'm sure you're going to raise an awesome, awesome kid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, so keep going, keep trucking. We're like out of time. I got yelled at like 2 weeks ago for keeping a guest long, so I'm like super conscious of keeping.
I have to give them a 5-minute warning now.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we will definitely have you back once you get this next venture.
I know. You were so fun to talk to. This went so much better than I even anticipated.
No, it was a lot of fun. We appreciate your time. Let me know how everything goes with if you're going to check out Hemline or get a CRM for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then check out Bigger Pockets. I know there's people on there that will give you advice on that Airbnb venture you're going to get into.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will do that.
If you have any questions, you can just reach out to me, and I'll get all the information from Marcus.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all the advice and for chatting with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no if people have deals in Austin or in areas that you want to go to, or want to contact you on the web design side, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my web design agency is called SherAgency.com, SHER agency.com. You can find us there. Best way to get in touch with me personally is probably my LinkedIn. It's just MaxSher. If you want to show me a deal or something of that nature, that's where I'm most active. But if you get me on any of my social media, you can reach out to me on any of them. Someone will respond to you. Yeah, I'd love to hear from any of you guys.
Yeah, and we'll put all that information in the show notes, so when people are listening and clicking through, they'll be able to get all that information and reach out to you.
Yep.
Sweet. Glad I don't have to try and spell out my Instagram handle.
No, it's all right. We'll get that and plug it in for you.
Thank you so much.
But we appreciate your time and looking forward to getting you back on here soon.
All right, guys. You have a good one.
Thank you, you too.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too.